Alright guys, curveball for us today. We've been getting pretty good at comparing how two different authors use craft to build themes. But today we're flipping the script. This time we're sticking with one author, Matthew Arnold, but looking at two different texts that he wrote, a poem and a collection of nonfiction prose. Today's mission is to figure out how genre influences the way an author uses craft moves to create a theme. In order to see how the craft moves compare between texts, it's helpful to choose a single element to focus on at a time. For this video lesson, we're going to zoom in on tone as a craft move so we can make a meaningful comparison. Later on, as you work independently, you'll explore Arnold's other craft moves. For now, let's see how Arnold adjusts his approach to craft, depending on whether he's writing poetry or prose, even when he's exploring the same big theme. Both texts that we're looking at today respond to what historians call the Victorian crisis, a time when many people started to question the beliefs and establishments they had always trusted. The world was changing fast. Factories were transforming cities. Science, especially Darwin's theory of evolution, challenged traditional beliefs, and global politics raised tough questions about morality. And as we've seen in each era of literature we've studied so far, changes and developments in the world shake what people believe in, and this is reflected in what they write. Our author started to ask, if we can't rely on religion, culture, or establishments the way we used to, what do we hold on to? Arnold used two genres to explore this loss of certainty in a changing world, utilizing craft moves differently to shape his message. Our first text, Dover Beach, is a form of lyric poetry. This type of poetry focuses on expressing personal emotions and thoughts, often in a melodic way. Our second text, titled Culture and Anarchy, is an example of nonfiction prose, or a text that presents factual information in an attempt to inform, educate, or persuade the reader. Nonfiction prose would include a lot of the texts you've written and read in this course, like Mary Wollstonecraft's A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Pause your video and consider these two genres that Matthew Arnold is using. How do you think the genre he chooses will impact the way Arnold uses craft moves to create his theme? I've got a few predictions too. Let's see if we're right by reading the beginning of both Dover Beach and Culture and Anarchy. We'll focus on the craft move, tone, to see how he expresses emotions and attitudes differently in the two genres. Let's start with his poem, Dover Beach. Just from the title, we know it's grounded in a specific place from his own country, which means Arnold's feelings in this poem will be very personal. We also know that poetry allows for more emotional personal expression, so let's pay close attention to how that affects Arnold's use of tone here. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. Upon the straits, on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast out in a tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet as the night air. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling at their return up the high strand. Begin and cease, and then again begin, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. There are lots of craft moves in here, but let's look at the specific words and images Arnold uses to understand the tone he's creating. He starts the poem with, "The sea is quiet, the moon is shining, and everything feels still," creating a very calm and peaceful tone. But then he slips in the line about a light that gleams and is gone, and says the tide is bringing the eternal note of sadness in, which makes it feel, well, really sad. What effect does the shift in tone have on the reader, and how might this help Arnold introduce his theme? Pause your video and jot your thoughts. That gentle shift from calm and tranquil to unsure and sad makes the reader start to feel the theme before even knowing what it is. the tone becomes quietly uneasy, suggesting that something we trust, something beautiful and steady, is starting to slip away. Through this careful control of tone, Arnold sets us up to emotionally experience a loss of certainty, which is a central theme in both his poem and his prose. Now, let's shift to genres. The tone in this nonfiction prose had a different job to do, and it wasn't quite the emotional immersion of Dover Beach. Let's look at this excerpt from Culture and Anarchy, where Arnold continues to grapple with the changing world around him. He talks about a bishop, or Catholic leader, who was once very well known, but of whom now many people don't know. Watch to see how the genre he writes in changes the tone he uses to convey this message. In the essay which follows, the reader will often find Bishop Wilson quoted. To me, and to the members of the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge, his name and writings are still no doubt familiar. But the world is fast going away from old-fashioned people of his sort, and I learnt with consternation, lately from a brilliant and distinguished votary of the natural sciences, that he had never so much as heard of Bishop Wilson, and that he imagined me to have invented him. It distresses one to think that the new lights should not only have, in general, a very low opinion of the preachers of the old religion, but that they should have it without knowing the best that these preachers can do. Using words like consternation and distresses, Arnold sounds formal and kind of frustrated about the fact that many people are not familiar with a bishop or a senior leader of the Catholic Church, that he references as a thought leader in his essay. What effect does this intellectual and frustrated tone have on the reader, and how might this help Arnold introduce his theme? Pause your video and jot your thoughts. This measured, critical, and intellectual tone doesn't invite you to feel so much as it invites you to evaluate, to reconsider assumptions. Arnold is using tone here as a rhetorical tool, a way to push readers toward a thoughtful, maybe even uncomfortable conclusion. Are we abandoning tradition too easily? So let's compare the two. Arnold explores the same central theme in both, the loss of certainty in a changing world, but he uses different tones depending on the genre. What do Arnold's tones reveal about the different purposes of his poem and his nonfiction prose? Pause your video to reflect. In Dover Beach, poetry allows Arnold to use a lyrical, grieving tone, making us feel the personal loss of faith and clarity. In Culture and Anarchy, prose causes him to use a critical, thoughtful tone to convince us of his beliefs, while analyzing the cultural changes causing that loss. Each genre invites a different tone because it serves a different purpose. Poetry often aims to stir emotion, while prose aims to explain or persuade. Arnold is using genre strategically, hoping to connect with readers on an emotional and intellectual level. That's some serious commitment to his message. Tone is just one example of how genre dictates the way craft moves are used to create themes. And in your lesson materials, you'll see many others that you'll compare side by side. Consider why Arnold may have chosen to use two different genres to get his message across, and which one is more powerful to you. Hey, hey.